how I landed my first tech job in 90 days. I'm going to start with a disclaimer. I'm not going to BS you. This is not some really quick roadmap on how to immediately land your dream job in tech in 90 days, because that is not going to be the experience for most people. But what I am going to do is tell you how realistically, not only myself, but a few of my friends that I know, some relatives, and people that I network with have been able to land a job in tech that's a good job within 90 days to maybe 3 to 6 months. I want to take a moment to actually talk at the top of this video about cybersecurity, because that is what I landed my first tech role in, which is very hard to do, by the way. But if you are more interested in general tech roles, you can kind of skip ahead, although you will be missing a lot of really good information that actually translates across getting any job in tech. So the first thing I want to tell you is getting a cert in cybersecurity will not get you a job. Full stop. Do you know why? Because the only thing that a cert shows HR or hiring managers is that you can sit through a course, you can show up for class, that you can copy and paste, maybe write an essay or answer some questions. It does not show them that you can actually do the work that is necessary to complete the job for them. Now, I'll be honest right now. Part of the reason that I was able to land a job so quickly was because I used to be a hiring manager. Even though it was in a completely different field, some of my soft skills were transferable. So I do know what recruiters and hiring managers are looking for overall. Basically, the hiring manager has to see you potentially fitting in the role. So that goes based solely off of how you present yourself, what you say in the interview, what you say on the phone calls. Do you send follow-up emails? Are there grammar errors? They're looking at everything. They want to see if you took the time to actually put your resume together properly, if you have really good communication skills, and above everything else, they want to be able to understand your story. You are going up against hundreds of thousands of people, all going for the same role within tech. And so it's like a needle in a haystack. You have to stand out. Even if you are applying for a job, there might be hundreds of thousands of applicants, but another 20,000 actually have the skills that would place them as valid candidates for the role. So then what makes you better than all of them? You have to tell your story so that they could understand why you should be chosen over the rest. And realistically, simply dusting off your resume and getting a couple certs isn't going to cut it. Now, I'm going to share some things that you can do, and I'm actually going to share how I got into tech in 90 days, and I didn't even complete my certs. The first thing you need to do when looking for a job is start with yourself. You need to check your attitude. You have to be very mature. You have to be able to handle rejection, and above everything else, you are going to have to remain consistent. The reason that this is such an important first step is because with the job market the way it is, most people are not landing roles between 6 months to 2 years, and they're sending out resumes daily. The reason for that partly probably has to do with the candidate themselves, but also because the job market is so competitive. So you cannot give up and just take no or the first rejection as a sign for you to give up. You have to keep going, because rejection is hard, but so is being homeless and broke. And the reason that it is so hard, it's because a company is entrusting you to do very important work, right? So once you get into tech, no matter what your role is, you are dealing with very sensitive customer information, consumer information, maybe backend, maybe you're developing framework or even programs that the company is relying on to make money or secure themselves. Whether you get into healthcare and you're, securing PII, or whether you're, working in banking and you're coding or creating some new program to make it easier for the users, there are so many levels of things that happen within the corporation that they have to entrust you that you can handle the job load. And not only that, know what you're doing, so that at the end of the day, they are not paying you to cost them more money. So what does that mean for you? What that means for you is, one, you have to know what you want to do. And the reason for that is because if you don't know what you want to do, you're not going to know what to study or what certs to even get. You have a lot of influencers that come on here and they will tell you things like get Sec Plus, which is not a bad cert, or get CCNA, which is also not a bad cert. But if you're not going to do anything with systems that are made by Cisco, you don't need CCNA. If you want to work specifically in certain demographics or markets like government or healthcare, then CCNA could be great for you. But you don't want to waste your time on certs that are not going to help you move forward. You also have to remember that some of these influencers are only selling masterclasses. So they're not even working in tech. They are making money off of brand deals and you buying their courses. And, for me, I do follow some influencers and I do like a lot of things that some of the influencers say, but especially with cybersecurity, I found that some of the top influencers have never had a cybersecurity job. They haven't even had a cybersecurity adjacent job. So why would I spend my hard-earned money, or worse, my time, to put in the work for a course from them that I'm not actually going to learn what I need to learn to present myself properly in front of a hiring manager? And this is not me shading influencers at all. But what I am saying is you need to proceed forward with zero trust. Zero trust is actually a cybersecurity framework, or basically just a principle or concept, where you literally have to know who has access to what, right? You don't just give access to anyone. They need to prove themselves. You're not just going to fork over money to a shady university that's not accredited. Why should you give your money over to an influencer that is charging you for data engineering and all they've done is make videos? Like, you have to look at the motive and you have to look at the brand. You have to look at not only the job that you want to do, but once you find the job that you want to do, then you look at the influencers or the courses or the school or the boot camp that actually has a very high success rate, that they've either already worked in the field or they have very high placement, and they should be able to prove that. I know some people will probably think that that's a really horrible outlook, like, oh, you can't trust anyone, but it's not that you can't trust anyone. It's just zero trust is that by default, you trust nothing until it's proven. And the fact is if a person can't prove to you their credentials, then you shouldn't trust them in the first place. How is that different from taking advice from your single friend who can never keep a relationship past 2 to 3 months, but they're giving you marriage advice, This is how I was able to get my tech job within the 90-day period. The first thing I did was decide exactly what role that I wanted to have, right? And I kind of left it open. I left a little wiggle room because with the job market, sometimes you need to just get your foot in the door. And if that's the case, that's okay. But you also have to make sure that the position that you're applying for will get you to the position that you ultimately want in the end. So once I started taking my studying more serious, the first thing I did when I got accepted into a boot camp, wait, please don't scroll. Don't wait. I know people think boot camps are whatever, but let me explain. I chose to go the boot camp route very simply because the boot camp that I chose after research was actually sponsored and funded by the Department of Education, and it's accredited. So that way they could make sure that I succeed because their funding depends on that. They also help with job placement. Now, they do not guarantee job placement because you have to put yourself in that position, but it does help when you have people on the other side fighting for you or telling you when positions are open or you have availability to portals. That gets me into where you put your stuff online. Most people look for jobs or boot camps or something like that online, right? And they're looking at places like LinkedIn and they're trying to network and they're doing everything that everyone else is doing. The problem with that is you're doing everything everyone else is doing. Again, you have to set yourself apart. After getting accepted into the program, one of the first things we did was start looking at ourselves. So the easiest way to do that is look at our social media platform and our personal development. It's really important here, and I'll use my sister as an example. She actually got an interview with Meta, and the process was long. She actually got all the way to an offer, which she declined. And I don't think people realize how serious their social media is. So even trying to get into universities, boot camps that are very competitive, or get into courses with job placement, they do a deep dive research on you, right? So by the time I got in, they had already checked my LinkedIn, they had already checked my Instagram, they checked my Facebook or whatever. They checked literally everything. And this doesn't just go for when you start your job. You should be working on this from the beginning, right? I say don't use LinkedIn to find work. Use LinkedIn for learning, networking, or not at all. If you're not using LinkedIn for those things, you don't need to be using it. And if you're from a cybersecurity background, you know why. Because it's a gold mine for OSINT. They can get so much information from you. And there's a lot of information that people have online that they don't even realize. So companies are pulling up, tweets that you had back before X, when it was still Twitter, from 10 years ago, right? And you said something really ignorant. You really need to make sure that everything is completely cleaned up. The second thing you need to do is make your social media private. If you are not a brand, if you're not a company, if you are not a paid influencer, yes, paid, then you need to have your social media private. The only reason it should be open is if you are making money off of it. That way, there's nothing that they could really see that if you do have something up that may look poorly, or that they may say they don't want to hire you because of that, or if it comes down to you and one other candidate, then your social media could mean a lot. So now you only follow certain influencers, so that's good. You already know kind of what you want to do, or the roadmap in the general area of what you want to do. You've already started cleaning up your social media. Now you are going to get to the part where it gets a little bit juicier. The first thing you're going to do after you figure out the job that you actually want to have, is you need to go online and you need to look at the job requirements. So even if you're not planning on applying to those jobs, if you go on Indeed, LinkedIn, all the major ones, right? You look at the posting and you can actually collect a bunch of them, or just screenshot a bunch of them across, drop it in ChatGPT if you're too lazy. And what you can do is you can actually see what is the common thread between those jobs. That will tell you generally what the expectation is. So what certs are they looking for overall? Do you need to have experience? What type of experience you need to have to get those jobs? So if you want to get a job in networking and you don't know what you want to do in networking, you can look at entry-level positions, get a bunch of information about what each position does. Make sure that you research the day-to-day activities that happen within that job role, so that you are able to not only speak about it, but you can actually do it. And then you can backtrack. You can start to look at the education that you need to be able to get hired to fulfill that role. Now, here's another little tidbit. If you're seeing jobs that you want, but maybe they're saying, oh, you need to have a 4-year degree, or you need to have a master's, or you need to have whatever, and all of these other certifications, and maybe you're in school, or maybe you don't have a 4-year degree, or maybe you have a bunch of certs and you have experience but no degree, apply anyway. The reason for that is a lot of jobs requirements are wishes. It's a wish list. They want someone with a master's degree and 10 years experience for an entry-level job where they're paying $20 an hour. They are not going to get that. What you can say to get your foot in the door, get ready to write this down. Most companies need qualified candidates to fit a role. Upon hiring, you have to get trained for the specific role anyway, especially within tech. I have several years experience doing fill in the gap XYZ. Then you can follow up with, no one with a master's degree or senior level is really going to take this job. And it is smarter for companies to hire individuals that are not set in their ways, that they can train up, and that they can gain experience within the company culture and grow with the company, which is what my goal is, that would accept pay at this level. You can argue their knowledge gap argument against them because they don't want to dish out the money. And even if you are a senior manager in a role, they still give you training when you enter a different company, because you may be using different systems and different programs, and they have different protocols. So almost every tech company and almost every job is going to give you the training anyway. So argue why they should give you a chance. Okay, so now we've gone over everything else. You have your list of certs that you want to get. Now let's show you the best way to get them. If you're not going to go the paid cert route, what you're going to try to do is you're going to try to get the free boot camps through Department of Labor. You can try to take courses that do give you specialized certification via Harvard X. edX has a program with Verizon Skill Forward, and you don't have to be a Verizon member. You can also check out Coursera, which also has an agreement with the Department of Labor for most states. And you can actually get specialized courses that give you professional certifications. The problem with this is a lot of people sign up for it and don't actually finish it. Don't be one of those losers. Just finish it. Right? The reason I signed up for the boot camp was accountability. It made me get up every day, show up for myself, show up on time, get through the course. It's not that I couldn't do the coursework on my own. I already had a foundation of understanding. The problem was the consistency. That is the biggest thing to get you from interviewing to landing a job, is to take these steps and consistently show up for yourself every single day. That brings me to analysis paralysis. So right now, while people are looking for jobs, they're ingesting so much information and they get so defeated that they end up not moving forward. The biggest thing outside of consistency is actually just doing it, right? So you have to show up, you have to start. It doesn't matter if you're a career changer. It doesn't matter if you're fresh out of high school and you don't know what to do with your life. It doesn't matter if you're a 60-year-old that, can't afford to live on your old retirement and you want to start over. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey. You need to just show up and you need to start. Meaning, once you get all of this under control and you start your classes, you start your courses, you dust off your resume, you need to just start applying for stuff. And here's why. You can put on your resume that you are taking the courses with your expected completion date. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't plan to actually graduate that program. Like I said, show it for yourself, actually take advantage of the program, because it shows that you have follow through and it shows employers that you have follow through and you will complete tasks. But also, they're going to look for that. So if you put it on your resume, they're going to be asking you, when are you supposed to finish? What have you learned so far? And you're going to have some concepts under your belt to talk about during the interview, but that doesn't mean that you cannot apply until you finish your certifications. It just means that you have to get enough under your belt, along with, some AI and research, that you can have talking points during an interview. But you can go ahead and put those courses and specializations on your resume and start applying from day one. Now, I got to play devil's advocate here. Don't lie on your resume. Like, if you're taking a cert class and you're probably not going to finish, don't put it on your resume. The reason for that is most people don't understand that your resume is actually a living document. And if you do lie on your resume, not only can the company fire you, but they can actually sue you, especially if something happens like negligence, or you mess up, or they find that you're not adequate enough to do the job that they hired you for. They can fire you because they hired you under false pretenses. And since it is a legal living document, you can actually get sued for quite a bit of money. So just learn how to finesse your resume and learn how to talk, but don't lie. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like for the people that are on Tinder. You don't want to swipe right and then, somebody else shows up and you get catfish. It's the same thing with a company, except they get to sue you. The other annoying part that you're going to have to deal with is your actual resume when you're applying. Now, this is where people get defeated and they stop applying. You are going to have to revamp your resume for almost every single job that you apply for. However, there is an easy way to do this. Start with a master template for the type of job, whether that's AI engineer, prompt engineer, data engineer, analyst, data analyst, infrastructure engineer, networking engineer, cybersecurity analyst, whatever the job is, right? You take the basic template that you have, put that in ChatGPT, along with whatever the post says, screenshot that and put that into ChatGPT. And then what you want to do is you want to have it revamp your resume and tell you where there are areas of opportunity for you to update it so that it matches what the posting is. there are two things that are important when you do this. One, crop out your personal information, obviously, because it's going into open AI. And part two is this will actually help you with beating ATS, right? So most companies, especially tech companies, don't see all of the resumes that come in first. What it does is automatically goes to ATS, and ATS completely wipes out the people that don't fit the criteria. So you can not get a job because you decided to put a picture on your resume. You're not auditioning. This isn't Broadway. You're not trying to get on The Bachelor. Leave your picture off of a tech resume. Save the designer stuff for in person, right? So you want to have a very boring resume because tech is very boring. They want to get straight to the point. You also have to engineer your resume. So you think of it like a menu. When you go out to a fancy restaurant or just a restaurant in general, you'll see appetizers, or you'll see kind of like the most favorited item in the middle, and then you kind of see the market value stuff like a little to the side or to the bottom, right? Because people with money are going through the whole thing because they're probably ordering through courses, while people that are just hitting up, before a movie or just they're on a budget, they're going to look for the sale, they're going to look for the appetizers, they're going to look for the regular entrees that get the most bang for their buck. You want to give the recruiter all the information that's the most bang for your buck right there on your resume in the beginning. So if you're a career changer, what you want to do is you want to put your projects. You want to put your education that you're currently doing. You want to put forward things that show that you are flipping careers, and right under that, you want to have your work experience. For people that are just starting out, that maybe don't have a lot to put on your resume, the objective is for you. I personally hate the objective section, but it is a resume filler and it can tell your goals and it can help build that story I told you guys about. The other thing you can do is, if you are just trying to advance in your career, you put your work history first, chronological order, right? And what you want to do is you want to focus and highlight how you have progressed through your career, okay? You need to make sure that you highlight that so that they could see that you got better and better and better at every single position. Your resume needs to be very clean cut, make sense, very straightforward. Do not use templates that are fancy. You can print that out for in person. That's where you put the offset on the side. That's where you put the different layouts and all the colors, because ATS will kick that. An AI scan will kick that. Also, when you copy and paste from AI into your resume and you don't remove all of those little invisible watermarks, that can also cause your resume to get kicked. So keep that in mind. So now you've sent over your resume and you're waiting for callbacks. If you haven't heard anything, what you can do is find out who the hiring manager is. Back to LinkedIn and OSINT. You can look at who is posting for that job. So whether it be recruiters, who works at the company, managers, you start to try to connect with them. You hit the connect button. You ask them straight up in DMs, very professionally, if they are hiring. Are they open to a conversation? These are the people that you need to network with. Remember, your network is your net worth. Now, that is not how I particularly got my job. My job was posted on LinkedIn, and within not even a full day, it was taken down because they had so many candidates flooding the post that they immediately took it down. So what I did was I looked up the information on LinkedIn. It was also in my job portal from my bootcamp program that I had. I went directly to the company website and I applied there. I also then applied on LinkedIn, and then I also contacted my network of people and I sent them my resume. So now I had 3 different avenues where I had different people looking at my resume. Now, sometimes some companies will say, oh, don't do that because it's gonna, no, do it. You want to flood because you don't know what set of eyes is going to get on that resume. So if you can apply directly through the company, when you go to the company website, scroll down, look at their hiring now or whatever careers, and you look through, you want to apply there. You want to also go to their LinkedIn accounts and you want to apply there. If they are on Indeed or other sites and you have your resume posted there, make sure that you are choosing the correct one. Use the same exact resume across, and also have your cover letter where you can write that little paragraph. You don't actually have to save the cover letter, but you do want a paragraph because That is where you will start to build the story about yourself and you will introduce yourself. Now, you don't want to give a generic one, so you need to tell ChatGPT, and I will put a prompt in the caption to help you create your cover letter because you want to tell your story. Because again, they want to know why they should hire you. And if your resume gets through the AI scan, they will see the message when they look before they click into your resume. Here is the other caveat of that. A recruiter and hiring manager spends 4 to 8 seconds looking at your resume. That's it for the entire thing before they decide if they want to push you forward or not. And it actually leans closer to the 4 second. So immediately your resume needs to be very clean cut, name on top, contact information, and your links. Your links are important because once they go back and they have that pile of people that they're going through, they're going to start clicking links and you want to navigate where they find your information. Again, we talked about cleaning up your your digital footprint, but you also can redirect them. So if you have a GitHub, if you have your own website, if you post, on your social media, cool projects that you've done, this is what you want to highlight, right? This puts me into my next most important, ace in the hole weapon. Have projects. Doesn't matter what it is. Create a GitHub, even if you don't like it, even if you don't understand it, create one. Or if you are getting into software engineering, create your own website. If you are doing, digital AI artistry, whatever the case may be, create your own portfolio. They need to actually visually see that you can do the job. And it doesn't matter what it is, because again, AI can help you with all of this. You can literally go in AI and say, hey, I need to build some projects. What are the top 10 projects that I could build quickly that I could throw up on my GitHub for this type of job when I am learning this to blah, blah, blah. Not only will it help you understand the concepts of what you're doing, it will also help you learn how to build your portfolio. It will also give you talking points. And I know this works. I'm going to give you a little story real quick. I know the video is long, but bear with me. So in my training, in the job that I have right now, the first person I had to go through loved me off top. They saw my portfolio, they saw my things, personalities, clicked immediately because I have a lot of transferable skills. One of the most important things is personality. I'm going to talk about that on the back end, but you have to bring who you are into the interview. It has to jump off of the page. It has to jump off of the screen. And there are some people in tech that are not like that. And that's okay, because you have to remember that's not who's usually your hiring manager, right? So part of the project that we were doing in class, we had to, go over SQL, database stuff, blah, 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 boring, right? And I said, hey, I already have this project. Could you take a look at it so I could see if my scope of work is good and if I need to add to it or if it's in line, whatever the case may be, because he's an expert. He took about 30 seconds, looked over my stuff, and immediately was just like, your code looks sloppy to me. Maybe you could get help. Wait. One, I'm not going to roast him, right? I'm going to let you guys do that in the comments. Please feel free. But two, he is a very technical person. He likes people to look a certain way of what fits in his mind. When he sees a woman, minority, curly hair, personality off the page, it doesn't normally fit in his world of tech bros, right? So I don't look the part to him. So immediately, he didn't actually see my code at all, right? I was just showing him the schema. So immediately, he tried to reference me to another student who does fit that mold. He's very much the male version of like a pick-me, so to speak. First day of class is like asking, can we stay longer? Can we get more projects? I'm like, bro, if you don't like your life or your wife, that's on you. Please, the rest of us, we have things to do. Like, don't, right? But he was always the one asking for more. And our trainer loved that about him. Everyone else hated that about him, right? Because it also gave more work for them. The funny thing is, when we all got hired, I got hired to be that guy's manager. Right? Because again, it's all about how you're presenting yourself and knowing the audience of who you're presenting yourself to, which is why you need to research who is hiring. You need to look on LinkedIn. You need to do all of those things that I said earlier in the video and do a little bit of research so you know how to talk to them. If you're talking to a very technical person, it's going to be very straightforward. You can throw a few dry jokes in. But the funny thing is, by the time our application got through, I had beat out 100,000 people when they turned the post off on LinkedIn. We had to go through another 100 candidates just from the round that I got through. And then we had to go through another 3 weeks, consistency we talked about, another 3 weeks of pre-training. And we weren't even hired yet. Rounds and rounds of interviews, sending over resumes, revamping resumes, talking to potential trainers that we would be working under, then to get the root of who we were actually going to interview with, which were senior level managers for the company directly. And the first thing they did, they saw my projects and my links and all of that on my resume. They started asking me questions about it. I was able, because of my practice by completing these projects, to get through all of the behavioral questions, speaking very technically. So it was very personable, it was very conversational, but it was also showing them that I had an expertise. So I actually controlled the interview more than they did, because what I did, this goes very specifically to my career changers, adult learners, everybody that's, advanced or trying to move up through their career that has life experience. This is what is going to put you over the edge of everyone else. They only brought in 50 people out of the 100, and I was the last person to interview. I made it so memorable. Everyone else got 15 minutes. I had 30 because I took the time to listen to them so that I could understand what they wanted to know. And then I could answer in a way that I could control the type of questions that they would ask me next. Okay. This is what you have ahead of Gen Zers and alphas, no shade, you guys, but they don't know when to shut the up. They don't know how to listen. They're very poor at professionalism. They want to show that they're the smartest in the room. You want to show that you can learn. You want to show that you learn from mistakes. You want to know what your weaknesses are. You want to show that you can grow. You want to be prepared with all of these questions. So another thing is to practice these interview questions. If you have no one else around to do it with, make sure that you do it with some type of AI tool. Again, you can look online, Glassdoor, Indeed. They can look at the typical questions, but you need to make sure that it's very current, because a lot of those are outdated for tech and they change all the time. But you also have to remember that you need to be prepared with talking about all the positives, but the negatives about yourself. You cannot go into an interview with an ego, because what you'll do is shoot yourself in the foot, right? They don't want you to come into the room thinking that you're smarter than them. They want to know that you can take direction from them. And there's a big difference. I had 2 senior managers. They asked me about my project. And since I was able to talk in such detail about the programming and my tables and how I created it and the databases and me on the other end with cybersecurity, I walked into there with the option of a couple of positions. And by the time I left, they didn't know where to place me in the best way. They were offering me to be a programmer, which I am not, an AI engineer, which I have some background in, a data engineer, which I am not, and cybersecurity, originally the recruiter didn't even put me up for. And I landed a job in TISO, like, on a global front for a global Fortune 500 company in fintech. And I will be managing that division. So you have to know how to present yourself again so that they know that you can communicate with people and know how to do the job. It's not always if you're the best coder, like the pick-me guy. In honor of Zero or Yoji, I can't remember who it is. I'm finishing my coffee, I swear. So I hope you guys learned a lot from the video. I know it was very long, but honestly, what got me that job was consistency. I made sure my digital footprint was clean, because the very first person who even looked at my resume, the first thing they did was looked at my LinkedIn. The second thing they did was looked at my socials. The third thing they did was looked at my portfolio. Then they checked my project to see if they could understand it. And then they had a lot of questions for me within the interview itself. I went through several screenings. Remember, the first call you get is not going to be your hiring manager. You have to have that personality and show them just enough that you have the technical skills so that they could push you forward. Once you do that, everything is your consistency, showing up, continuing your courses, revamping your resume. Make sure that when you actually get those interviews, you are following up immediately with a thank you email. Make sure that if you haven't heard from them, you do a check-in email, because again, getting these tech jobs, it can take some time and it has to go through several different departments and they have to push you and they have to, go through rounds. I called my hiring process like the tech version of Hunger Games. Everyone is fighting for this position. Continue applying for other places, continue applying for other jobs, because the more you interview, the more practice you have. Even if you get a bunch of no's, you can figure out why. Why am I getting a bunch of no's? If you're not getting any callbacks, it's probably your resume. If you are not getting callbacks from your second round in the interview, it's probably the way you're interviewing. And if you're getting to that third round and you're not understanding what's going on, you have to make sure that your portfolio is good. And the last thing in tech, which I'll get into in another video, is you need to be prepared for your test or your exams or your hiring problems. You need to be able to back up everything you're saying. So all of those things that I told you, make sure you pick the right courses, make sure you follow the right people, make sure you're learning the right things. All of that leads in order to making sure that once you get in front of those people and you have that test, that you can pass it, or that you can at least know what you're talking about. Because I know hiring managers that have hired people that did not pass those tests based solely on their personality, their grit, their drive, and what they think they have the ability to learn. Thank you for bearing with me if you made it all the way here. I know this video was long, but I hope it was packed with a lot of information, because a lot of people go to school for this. People have jobs teaching this. It's called personal development so that you can get a job. So I tried to cram everything I could into one video to help teach you guys. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments. If you guys would like to learn anything else, drop it in the comments. Feel free to critique nicely on my page. Thank you. And make sure if you want to see more like this, or if you want other videos, just drop them in the comment. Please follow, like, and share. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe.